All right, guys, it's time for another episode of Talking Preps. I say it every week. Are you ready, Rick?
Absolutely.
Randall?
Let's go.
Do I need earplugs? Here we go. All right, Rick, we're going to flip it up a little bit. Who are your players of the week?
Well, we're going to start with 6'10 junior Trent Steinauer of Lake Norman with a triple double, and not just a triple double, but easily a triple double with 27 points, 16 rebounds, 13 blocks in the game against East Forsyth. And now Lake Norman is 26-2 and on to the Sweet 16. Another player that we haven't talked about much off the Chambers team is 6'0 junior Jaden Terrell. When you look at Chambers, we've talked about, the super sophomores, Mario Hansen and Jordan Patton. But in this particular game, Terrell had a game high 25 points. He went 5 for 6 from the 3-point line and 10 from 11 from the floor.
Yeah.
Next up is 6'3 junior guard Chadwin Traylor of North Mech. What a game he had to help out with the absence of Trey Maxwell. He had 25 points in the second round over South Mech, and North Mech is the number 5 seed, and they will travel to the number 4 seed Mount Tabor on Tuesday.
Big game.
And next up, we have 6'0 Grant Hamilton, the senior, going to Roanoke. 26 points, 10 rebounds. They needed every bit of it. They were down 48-44 with 2 minutes to go, and they go on to score 10-3 in the last 2 minutes for the win. And Weddington advances to the Sweet 16 and will host Chambers on Tuesday night.
That's a rematch from a couple years ago.
Is a player that's going to Notre Dame, Sir Muhammad. Team high 17 points in the second round win over rival Audrey Cale. And to me is one of the nation's best defenders. And we don't talk about defense enough, but Sir Muhammad anchors the defense for Myers Park, which is, in my opinion, the best defensive team in the state of North Carolina.
Wow. And sir, you're going to play for a defensive coach in Mr. Shrewsbury up in South Bend. They have really turned it around in South Bend. How excited are you to get to the ACC? How excited are you to get to the ACC and get to cold weather Indiana?
I'm so excited, especially just to play for Shrews. It's really exciting.
Tell me about the team this year, because it seemed to me like you guys kind of were in cruise control a little bit, and now we got into the playoffs and you turned it up a little bit more.
We have a really special group this year. A lot of competitive dudes, and now that it's just time to turn it on and go get another ring. I think everybody's just really locked in more than ever before.
Yeah. Did the Audrey Cale game last week, did that kind of wake you up to kind of show you that, we're mortal a little bit, to be tied up, right there at the end?
I'd say so. Yeah. I'd say it was more than just the Audrey Cale game, but yeah, that was definitely a little bit of a wake-up call for us just to really focus on every game.
Sir, the one thing I've admired about you is your mature approach to the game and how you handle yourself on and off the court with your positive body language. And I go back to a situation where we had you in a travel ball event and you went down and you dunked on somebody and you acted, you acted like you'd done it before and you didn't celebrate, do the head tap. And the next play down, someone dunked on you and both of you guys hit the floor. And the most impressive thing that stood out and always in the back of my mind is you reached down to help this young man up. And, that speaks volume on you as a person. And that's the thing that I've always been impressed with is your mature approach to the game.
Thank you. Means a lot. Appreciate it.
Tell me about Tuesday's game, sir. And, everybody wants to talk, and including us, want to talk about a potential North Met game. You got a big game in Independence. How you avoid that from being the trap game?
One day at a time, going 1-0 every day. We even talk about going 1-0 in practice. So it's 1-0. That's all I can say. Yeah.
How big a deal would it be for you guys to make history? Because we haven't had a repeat state champion since the early 2000s. Winston Reynolds, not a repeat state championship from Mecklenburg County since West Charlotte 91-92. You guys have a chance to hit a lot of history in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that would mean a lot. We strive to be very special and be different, and that would mean the world if we could go back to back.
Yeah. Randall, what you got?
Sir, last night, you had a chase down block at the end of the game, and it reminded me of Tayshaun Prince. Can you just talk about how it's been for you this season because you've been in and out of the lineup, and kind of what were you able to see? Your team was lacking when you were out, and what did you come back and say? All right, this is what I got to do in order to help this team get back to where we're supposed to be.
I needed to finally be a senior leader. Over my high school career, I've kind of been spoiled with like great leaders, Sam Walters and Elijah Strong. So I realized it was like really time for me to grow up and be a leader.
And by leader, you mean vocally, like you have to speak up and actually talk to your teammates,
Yeah,
not just by example all the time.
Yeah, I got to learn to talk a little bit more. So yeah, that's what my goal has been this year. Use my voice a little bit.
All right, I know I'm going to ask a question that Coach doesn't want me to ask, but are you thinking about a potential North Met game? Has that crossed your mind at all?
Of course, it's crossed my mind, but I'm still focused on beating Independence first. So yeah, it's like if I'd be lying to say it hasn't crossed my mind, but nah, I'm focused on beating Independence first.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I had to ask.
Yeah.
But sir, man, appreciate you jumping on. I know you're busy. Good luck to you guys on Tuesday. Hope to catch you down the road. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Hadn't crossed his mind, he said, Randall.
He said he'd be lying if he said it hadn't. I don't think there's too many people on those two teams that haven't thought about it already.
Look at Alex with the tie on.
My goodness. Dr. Bass.
Looking all official. Yeah, soon to be Dr. Bass. Looking all official. All right, Randall, rock stars.
Well, this week it was a really good week. Alexis Sheehan, my girl from Lake Norman, back on here again. Started off the week with 34 and 10, and then followed it up with a 19.8 rebound, 5 assist performance in round 2. Elle Stone from Mallet Creek, finally healthy. And
wait, what's that name again, Randall?
Elle Stone.
Okay.
From Mallet Creek. She is back healthy, and she is rounding into form at the perfect time. She had 22 points, 7 steals, and 5 assists versus Mount Tabor on Friday. Lanice Joseph from North Mech, a really good young talent in the area. She had 25 points in their first round win versus Asheville. Senior Jaron Truesdale at Myers Park. She had 27 points and 10 rebounds in their first round matchup, and followed that up with 17 points yesterday in their win, or Friday in their win, and also scored her 1,000 point. And last but not least, the ETSU commit, Miss Kaylee Carson, she scored 19 points in Independence's win versus South Mech, and she also scored her 1,000 point, doing it in only 2.5 seasons.
That was crazy. Kaylee, how tough was it? I mean, you went out right before your junior year, right?
Yes, sir.
And then how tough was it to sit out, and how much did it take for you to come back and be the superstar that you were this year?
It was really tough to sit out. I struggled a little bit, but the comeback was good, and I was just grateful to be back to the rest of the season.
Did you surprise yourself at all that you were so effective, like right out of the gate, or did you think it would take a little bit longer?
I was kind of confident in myself because I worked hard to get back to like what I was before. So, I mean, I would say I surprised myself a little bit, but I knew I could do it.
Kaylee, I know you guys, your season didn't end the way you wanted it to on Friday night, but just talk about, kind of what the season meant for you. Obviously coming back from your injury, but also it being your senior season. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I hate that it ended the way it did, but like looking back over the season, we had a lot of good moments that could have been better, but overall, like, I'm just grateful we had the season that we had, and we did how we did.
Well, I know you're on your way to watch ETSU play Furman this evening. Talk about what that experience is going to be like, as you get ready for your freshman season and get ready to go to ETSU. What are a couple things that you really want to work on this offseason?
This offseason, I want to work on really just tightening up some of the skills that I have and just getting better overall, getting stronger, faster, and the little stuff like that.
Gotcha.
All right, well, look, listen, thanks for coming on with us. Good luck at the game. Good luck next season as you start your college career. It's been a wonderful high school career. Enjoy watching you play. And again, just best of luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take care. Another week of Randall's Rock Stars. We got the man, Alex Bass. Alex, what's with the tie, man?
Well, I figured that this was a great opportunity to set an example and show an appropriate level of respect and decorum for this great game of basketball, and the importance of bringing back coats and ties to coaching on the sideline. Important, and it's at the foundation of education-based athletics because our teacher coaches are teachers first and foremost. And the recent pandemic and some of the changes we saw in game coaching attire are no reason whatsoever that we should have a decline in this basic level of respect and decorum for the game, which we all can simplify.
So you were excited last Saturday when we sat there in Raleigh and watched Christ School and Providence Day play, and Ron Johnson had on the shirt and tie and Coley had on the suit and tie. You were impressed with that?
I was very, very impressed with that. We have a number of coaches who are showing appropriate respect and decorum for the game and are not giving in to the tendency of television and other forms of multimedia, however wonderful they may be, which are determined to turn coaches into actors rather than teachers, first and foremost. So the decorum that those gentlemen exemplified and that many of our wonderful female coaches exemplify at the same time certainly is a wonderful model to be emulated by our student athletes.
Nobody better than Coach Mitchell, Christy Mitchell, our compatriot on this. All right, Alex, well, I know you're excited to see that, but now it's time to talk some basketball, so let's talk roundtable. All right, Mr. Bass, here's the 1A pairings. Is it all Bishop McGinnis on one side and all Falls Lake on the other, or am I wrong?
Well, actually, the only error might be the fact that we could purport to have discussion as to what's going to happen in a championship game, and there's really nothing to discuss.
Between those two?
Bishop McGinnis is the team to beat.
Okay.
And it is what it is. There's not a lot of discussion to it, and that is not a commentary on Falls Lake. It's a commentary on Bishop McGinnis. You get in situations sometimes where, to use what John Elway said many, many years ago before he led the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl championship, he lost 2 or 3 times in the Super Bowl. And he said a couple times, well, we couldn't get in a rhythm against the Redskins. And then he referenced another game. And then he said, oh, and the year we lost to the 49ers, oh, we don't even need to talk. They were just too good. They were just too good.
That's Bishop McGinnis.
And that's the situation here.
Okay.
So
let's talk a little 2A. What do you see in 2A? I see North Pitt looking really strong with Zamariah Jones and company on one side. And I see that East Burke team. Every couple of years, East Burke has a really good team. And here they are 28-0.
East Burke has a tremendous tradition in that Unifor area. For many, many years, East Burke flew under the radar because of the achievements of programs like Freedom out of McDowell, which is in Burke County as well. McDowell, Hickory, so Newton Conover. So they flew under the radar, but East Burke has been very, very good for a very long time and is seeing some of the fruits of its decades worth.
We're going to see an East Burke North Pitt championship game?
Well, we can't look past Seaforth last year.
I was getting ready to say the same thing. I was going to say, not so fast, my friend.
Not so fast.
They want some revenge. Now, that was a heck of
that's the game. I mean, that's just the game I hope we get to. I hope we get to North Pitt and Seaforth, but I know, like everybody keeps telling us, it's one game at a time.
Oh, yeah.
It is one game at a time, but
it's okay to talk about future games. I mean, people. I mean, that's what we're here. This is talking prep.
I know.
We're talking about high school games. All right.
Of course, we're going to talk about some future games today.
Oh, we are. 3A Alex on the east side. What do you see?
Cape Fear with Jada Angel certainly has a very, very strong case, all things considered. And the schedule that they've played, particularly within Cumberland County, always bodes well for preparing the Colts for a deep playoff run. We're seeing that bear itself out right here. You see some other traditional teams. South Central is always competitive. Southern Durham, Terry Sanford, another one of those Fayetteville, Cumberland County schools that with whom Cape Fear has to compete year in and year out. So iron sharpens iron; they strengthen each other. But I do like Cape Fear and Jada Angel.
On the west side, I mean, East Lincoln, West Rowan, that was a regional championship game a year ago. It looks like it's going to be a regional semifinal this game. But is the winner of that going to represent the West?
Not necessarily. We have one of those situations again. AC Reynolds is a very, very good basketball team. They're one of those teams. They just play extremely hard.
Earlier this year too, right?
They did, and they just play extremely hard, and they go get after you on defense. I think we're gonna get two really, really good games out of the West. Obviously, hopefully
who's winning East Lincoln, West Rowan, and who's going to win the winner of that?
We all know I can't go against my favorite backcourt. So I mean, East Lincoln, West Rowan. I'm going with my
Valley Creek people. That's Randall Clark, the one RC.
I've been on that. I can't jump off the ship now.
Kiara Anderson and Emma Montanari had them on the show a couple weeks ago. They are playing. West Rowan is a monster, though. West
Rowan is, and that would be a really, really good basketball game. And I know there are some people already that have told me that that's the game that they're looking to Friday night, not the big game that a lot of people are talking about in Charlotte.
I would imagine there'd be more people at the one in Charlotte. Just a small guess. 4A girls, Alex, on the eastern side, I see a bunch of Raleigh teams.
Absolutely.
Also Panther Creek.
And the first thing that needs to be said, as I said in our group chat, Panther Creek has said, not so fast, folks. Panther Creek beat a very good Middle Creek team by double digits last night. That's a
without Taylor Barner.
Without Taylor Barner. That's a Middle Creek team that took Panther Creek to overtime with Taylor Barner.
Wow.
So Panther Creek is not done. You have to look at Olivia Tucker, the Campbell signee, very, very athletic guard who can step in and show leadership on the floor as well. You have to look at Kirsten Smalls, the 6-foot multi-time indoor track and field high jump state champion, and her pivot prowess. A lot of people, you have to realize Taylor Barner did some things for this team that, of course, everyone would love to have her, but people, however unintentionally, underestimate the abilities of people like Kirsten Smalls because she receives fewer touches with Barner on the floor. Who
else on that bracket can give them a fight?
That's really tough to say. Obviously, we have to take it one game at a time with Panther Creek right now and see how the matchups go. But I would still call them the favorite.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, that's how good of a job Danielle Sullivan has done.
He's a great coach
since this program's inception, and the work that she's put in, the work that the young ladies have put in, the abilities of this team effectively to have, I won't call it a seamless transition because that's not the case with a player like Taylor Barner out of the lineup, but to adjust appropriately and keep on keeping on.
Yeah, for me, she was my state coach of the year last year. I think she does a great job. Let's switch over to the West. Randall, Watauga came back from 15 points down to beat North Meck on Friday night. One of my other favorite lefties, Kate Sears, went for 37. Do they have a shot to pull off another upset and beat Malley Creek at home?
Anytime a Charlotte team has to go up to the mountains, you definitely have a shot. As my buddy Gary Richmond would say, that's a place that Charlotte teams do not like to go. Malley Creek's got their hands full Tuesday night, and they're gonna have to go. They're gonna have to go take that one. Watauga is not gonna give it to them. It's a very tough place to play. It's gonna be a sellout. It's gonna be loud. The officiating up there is different than it is down here. So they're going to have to.
Carolina bunch down the stretch. That was really a big difference in the game. I watched it on stream, but Kate Sears, man, she's as good as anybody I've seen. I mean,
she can play. She's a great 3-level scorer. She can really play. Can really shoot it. So the good thing about Mallard Creek is Mallard Creek has girls on their team that really like to guard, and I have a feeling that Lily Booker, the senior, is going to step up and take that challenge and say, "I got Sears."
I'm going to go ahead and call Mallard Creek and Myers Park to take their 2 games to set up a Mallard Creek Myers Park. I'm going to go ahead and call it right now to set up a Mallard Creek Myers Park 4th round game. Myers Park would be classified as the home team in that game, and we might discuss that a little later as well.
All right. Well, Alex is calling that. Northern Guilford beat Ardrey Kell in a close game on Friday. I don't think that we've talked enough about the job that Barbara Nelson has done with this Myers Park team, because I don't think anybody was expecting them to. They were 21-0 or something other. I don't think anybody was expecting that type of start out of them. This is the most wins they've had since the state championship.
The interesting thing about this team is they don't really have a dominant score.
Yeah.
And when you look at all these other teams, they have kids on their team that if some of these kids get 25, 30 a night, we're not blinking an eye. That's just kind of what they do. Myers Park doesn't have that. I know Jaren Truesdale, she has 17 Friday night. But the thing about this is they get it from so many different people. Raven Alexander is scoring for them. Jaren, obviously. But, they really get a lot of their things on the defensive end. They have 5 girls that they have on the floor that really, really just defend and get after you, and they look to turn you over, and then they're just going to execute on the offensive end, and whoever scores it scores.
One thing Joe Badger used to always talk about, he used to always say, if I can get you in the last 3 minutes, I can out-coach you. If that woman gets you in the last 3 minutes, she's going to out-coach you. Barbara Nelson, best women's coach I've ever seen in North Carolina.
So basically you're saying that we could have on tap a defensive-minded doubleheader courtesy of the Mustangs in the 4th round. Is that what you're saying?
That's what you said. All I said was if it comes down to the last 3 minutes, what might happen. Alexander Central is going to play Lake Norman. I would think Lake Norman Randall is going to be a big favorite in that game.
I think so. But Lake Norman has to be very, very careful. Obviously, it would be easy for them to be thinking about Charlotte Catholic already, and they shouldn't do that. Catholic definitely should not do that. Marvin Ridge is really well coached. They shoot the ball really well.
Upset Independence Friday.
Yeah, upset Independence Friday. They just came in with a great game plan and they executed it, beautifully. But out of all the pairings that we have for the rest for this week coming up, I think this 4A girls, these 8 teams, these are some of the best basketball games that we're going to be privy to this year.
Wow. Do you think Lake Norman and Catholic were a regional final last year, so you think we'll get that again?
I think we got a collision course for it. I think the way that that Lake Norman team is put together and the way that they've been playing together, I think that those 2 teams are on a collision course to run into each other again.
Wow. All right. We got Gary trying to hide down there a little bit. Gary, any thoughts on the 4A West on the girls' side?
If Mallard Creek's to lose.
Mallard Creek's to lose. Mallard Creek is number 1 as a state championship. Will that pressure get to them, or will the altitude get to them in Watauga?
It's not the altitude; it's the officiating.
Gary, I already told him that. I said exactly what you would have said before you got on here.
They did. I mean, I will say I watched the game. Watauga went to the free throw line an awful lot down the stretch.
You had to
watch the last 2 minutes of that game, sir.
But you have to adjust how you play to how the game's been officiated.
Yeah, but it got very one-sided in the 4th quarter last night, and it was the same guy making all the calls.
It got very one-sided at the end of that ball game, and
that's something that has happened a lot throughout history. I've experienced it. Heck, I got a call from the state one year because you remember Langston when I played McDowell, the foul calls were 27-1.
Yes, I remember. I was there.
And I commented on the officiated, and you asked me, you said, "Do you want me to put this in the paper?" I said, "Please do." and he said, "You ready for the fine?" I said, "I already told my AD, get ready to pay it." And the state called. And they said, we told y'all about you can't comment on officiating. I say, well, send the fine, but I'm going to send the tape. And once they saw the tape, they rescinded the reprimand. Because they said the officiating was obvious. And the guys who worked that game didn't get to call another game in the playoffs.
Well, again,
altitude. Before we move forward, as for altitude, let's just remind all of our viewers that ultimately, from Mallard Creek and everyone else, that it is your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude.
Yes, sir. All right, boys side, Rich. I know you're ready to go. Is the 1A East the Wilson Prep Invitational?
Well, before we start there, I want to mention one thing about the RPI and how the state did the seeding. If you look at the teams that's in the first round of top 4 teams, 30 out of the 32 teams actually advanced to the Sweet 16. And then in the 1A, all, the top 4 teams all advanced to the Sweet 16. I think in the East, I don't know a lot about the other teams, but Wilson Prep has been the elite team down East and favored to win the East. I think in the West, it's sort of wide open. South Stokes, they have 1 loss. I mentioned it last week. They split with Mount Tabor during the course of the season, and they played some very tough 4A teams this season. You also have Bishop McGinnis, 26-3. Their 3 losses came to 4A schools, and they're very good. And I think they lost in the regional finals last year.
What about
and then, of course, I think Ron Murphy's
what about Ron Murphy's Corvian community team? What about them?
Yeah, and the other one is Ron Murphy's done a really good job at Corvian. They're 24-3, and they're, I think, seeded number 2 in the West. So I think that particular bracket is wide open between South Stokes, Bishop McGinnis, and Corvian.
That should be an interesting. It'd be crazy if Murphy was to get those guys to a state championship game. All right, 2A side. Alex, what do you see on the eastern side? I see Farmville Central again.
Well, Farmville Central and Northwood are on a collision course for one state quarterfinal. Goldsboro seemingly will come out of the other portion of that with an opportunity to play in the semifinal in Winston-Salem. I had a chance to watch Goldsboro earlier this year. Always very, very scrappy, very, very athletic, and able to make plays when it comes down to it. But let's keep an eye on that Farmville Central Northwood state quarterfinal.
That's going to be a sellout in about 2 minutes. Rick, on the west side, what do you say?
Well, I think, Reedsville played for the state championship last year, and, they were led by 2 freshmen. They're now sophomores, and, they're the cream of the crop in the West. I think Salisbury has an outside chance with Jute Harris, the Wake Forest signee, but I really do think it's going to be Reedsville. And, of course, out of the West, I think it's out of the East, it's going to be Farmville Central or Northwood. But it's Reedsville's to lose.
Reedsville to win the whole thing?
I really do. I think it's their year to win the whole thing.
Wow. Yep. They heard it from the guru, Rick Lewis. Make sure you save it. All right, 3A East, Alex, what do you say?
Great competition once again. I got a chance to see Westover out of Fayetteville, George Stackhouse's team. Very, very athletic as always, very competitive. I saw them earlier this season. Northern Nash had a big win on Friday night. Northern Nash is an interesting blend of experience and youth. They have a couple of freshmen, including a developing pivot man who is very, very good. So their blend of balance and youth will put them in a good situation for going forward. 71st and Swansboro, I think, are on a collision course in the other of the 2 third-round games. I like this Swansboro team. Tavion Tangiora, a 6'7" junior pivot man who really patrols the interior, and by collapsing in on him is able to create opportunities on the perimeter for his cohorts. Swansboro might be kind of like Lake Norman, a year away. They're very junior laden, but I do like the Swansboro team. Very, very evenly balanced. East Wake, the lone 3A school from Wake County, is in the midst of a program resurgence. East Wake, which is having one of its best seasons since its 1990-91 team, fell to West Charlotte in the state final with sophomore Jeff McGinnis and sophomore Thad Bonaparte on, and what was a great game. in the waning years of the legendary Charles McCullough's career. So East Wake is having a good resurgence, and you have Southern Durham with Jackson Keith, one of the top juniors in the state. So just a whole lot of balance right here. First Flight's going to come with their three-point shooting barrage. If you look at the state records for three-pointers in a game, First Flight has about 5 or 6 out of the top 10.
Wow.
So they're going to come with their barrage. A whole lot of balance here in the 3A East.
Oh, there's not a whole lot of balance in 3A West, is there, Rick?
Not a lot. I think it's going to be the Central Cabarrus Invitational. They're 29-0. They were 32-0 last year, won the state championship. Although they lost two they lost one Division I player, one Division II player.
Mm-hmm.
They have the Daniel twins. DJ Kent is probably the most improved player in the state of North Carolina. He has a D2 scholarship, but the key to their success this season has been 6'9" Joshua Dalton, who transferred in late summer, and he provides that rim protector. He runs the floor. He's a rim runner. Mm-hmm. He just adds a different dimension to the team. And when you play Central Cabarrus, you don't know how to prepare for them because they come at you 100 miles an hour from start to finish, and you just have a very difficult time not playing at their pace. They're going to push you. They're going to challenge you, and they're going to turn you over. Their offense is predicated on their defense. And mm-hmm. the only team I see that can really give them a decent game would be Hickory, in my opinion.
If that game's in the 50s or 60s, if it gets in the 70s or 80s, I don't think so. I think Hickory has.
Well, the one thing about Central Cabarrus, they're probably averaging like 95 points a game. So, and that's even in a situation where the coaches take the starters out, midway through the second half.
No, they've been having a great season. I just think if Hickory's going to have a shot, they're going to keep that score way down. All
Jim,
right, Alex.
Will tell you that he said that exact thing that Langston just said at the state championships press conference last season. He came out and said, if the game is in the 50s, I don't think we can beat Northwood. So exact same principle as Langston said.
I think that's the key if you want to try to beat Central Cabarrus. All right, 4A West, Alex, I see a bunch of Raleigh, a little bit of Richmond County on the eastern side.
Very much so. Richmond County playing well, had a 20-plus point win on Friday night. Cardinal Gibbons, the 7th seed out of the East, will be heading to Rockingham on Tuesday. Cardinal Gibbons with a 31-point win over Overhills, 77-46 on Friday night, in which Cardinal Gibbons scored the first 16 points of the game, hit 5 3-pointers in the first quarter, and led 28-4 at the end of the first quarter. And it was on from there. Cardinal Gibbons is a balance of youth and experience, including the inside-outside tandem of 6'7" junior pivot man Cash McSweeney, who had 15 points last night, and 6'1" point guard Aiden Smalls, who is a sophomore and a football standout as well, who had 14 points. So good inside-outside tandem there, complemented by a bevy of student athletes who play their roles well. That could be a good game. Green Level will have one of its bigger tests of the season when hosting Garner. Green Level's a very good team. There have been questions throughout the season about exactly how strong its conference was this year, but this is a statement opportunity for the Gators to prove the progress they've made in the few years that the school has existed. Panther Creek and Millbrook, no strangers there in terms of Panther Creek, the 2022 state runner-up to Weddington. Millbrook with Colt Langdon always in the mix. That'll be a good game. New Hanover undefeated will be hosting Sanderson. Sanderson out of the Cap 6 with Cardinal Gibbons. So
how good is that New Hanover team?
They're good. They're good. A blend of size and speed and shooting. New Hanover is in a great situation in terms of being able to attract very good talent, and they do. And this isn't the stage or the setting to discuss that certain players may have come from other schools in the county within the last year.
Kids want to play together. They figure out ways to do it.
Yeah, this isn't the setting to discuss that.
This is what it is.
But New Hampshire has put together a very impressive, deep team.
Okay, let's flip it over to the western side. Rick, Grimsley's going to play Lake Norman. We keep talking about Lake Norman maybe being a year away. They're just a couple of games away right now.
They're a couple games away, and that game's at home. And you look at the West. 6 of the 8 teams are from the Charlotte area, and you have Mount Tabor, who has played Lake Norman twice, and Lake Norman came up victorious both times, and the other team is Grimsley. But you start off with Independence. Preston Davis is going to come out with that 3-2 zone against Myers Park. They're going to try to really slow it down. But we all know Myers Park is nationally ranked. They're as high as number 4 in the country, and they're number 4 for a reason. They have 3 high major players, and naturally they're going to be the favorite in that particular game. North Meck is the number 5 seed. Will travel to the number 4 seed, Mount Tabor. I don't think that's really going to make a difference. I think North Meck, I think they play with a little bit of an edge, and they have that guy named Isaiah Evans who can single-handedly carry a team. I think the most interesting game of the night is going to be Chambers versus Weddington. I really thought Chambers has played a very difficult schedule, and I really thought they was going to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the state. But they have the opportunity to get back into the Elite 8. Chambers, I think the biggest thing for them, they have the talent. And I think the biggest thing for them is they don't have that dog mentality yet as far as an individual player. I think the coaching staff believes that they can go all the way. The players have to believe that they can go all the way. And I think the game at Weddington, if there could be an upset, that could be one. But again, you're going up against Gary Ellington, who knows how to win those close games. The other night I was watching the Weddington versus Butler game. It was 48-44 with 2 minutes to go, and next thing you know, Chambers, Weddington ended up winning the game, by 4 points. So, the coaching there is superb, and of course, Grimsley at Lake Norman.
I'm sure
if Chambers is going to get it done, this is the point where 6'8" senior pivot man Mario Hansen has got to distinguish himself as the X factor. You see exemplary play of pivot men throughout the state playoffs, including Lake Norman's Trent Steiner and the triple-double he had on Friday night. Mario Hansen has to be that X factor and difference maker by patrolling the pivot.
It's funny you said it, Alex, because Chambers played Weddington. I think it's the same round or maybe a round later a couple years ago. Had a big advantage inside, didn't go to it, and then lost a late, on an 8-9 point lead in the last couple of minutes. I wonder, go ahead, Gabe.
I like to talk about the pivot, but here's the lost art. It's not pivot play; it's pivot passing. Passing the ball into the pivot.
That's true.
Has become a lost art.
Yeah. No, that's very true. But I just wondered, will Chambers? I'm sure Coach Frazier may show them that film because they were in position to beat the Weddington team and went on to win the state championship. Randall, what do you see North Meck playing Mount Tabor? North Meck's down down Trey Maxwell. Challenge trailers play really well for them. Mount Tabor's a tough team. They're playing at home. That's another one of those road games.
Isaiah Evans, if he plays the way he played Friday night, North Meck's going to win. Isaiah was phenomenal. He was scoring in a bunch of different ways. He was taking off from outside the lane. He's hitting turnaround fadeaways on the baseline. I just don't think Mount Tabor's seen a scorer like that. I know Chambers and Weddington is the game to kind of look out for, but there's a matchup with this Grimsley Lake Norman where Richard Goods, the 6'9" center, going up against Trent Steiner, the 6'9" center from Lake Norman. If we want to talk about pivot play, I think those two have a chance to, whichever one of them, impacts the game the most. It could make that game very, very interesting because I think Grimsley matches up better with Lake Norman than a lot of people believe.
Fast forward, Randall. Who's winning these 2 games? Who are the winners of this game Tuesday? And is going to play Friday. Who's playing Friday?
North Meck will be going to Myers Park, and Weddington will be going to Lake Norman.
Wow, that'd be one heck of a Final Four. Go ahead, Gary. What do you think about that?
I don't know which game it's going to be, but out of these 4 games, there's going to be an upset in one of them.
Me personally, I think that if we're going to get an upset, like Coach Rick said, that Chambers Weddington game is one, but that Grimsley Lake Norman matchup, for some reason, I think that Grimsley matches up with Lake Norman a little bit better, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to sneak one out.
Randall explained why. He explained exactly why. It's because of the pivot men. It really is. Whoever gets the better of that matchup, if Richard Goods can establish his prowess in that game to open things up for Grimsley on the perimeter, as Randall said, that can be a Grimsley win. So, as I said, also,
guys, Trent Steiner is probably the best defensive big in the state. I just don't think anybody's going to be establishing themselves on Trent. How many blocks do you have?
We're going to see. We're going to see. Richard Goods, I'm talking about 6'9", I'm talking about 6'9", big. We're going to find out. We will find out.
Is Mars Parkey in gear now, Randall?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's focused and everybody's on the same page over there. Because
I kind of feel like we're kind of going through the motions.
It really reminds me of like people talking about Michael Jordan and how they just find reasons to be mad at you. They find reasons to like, and that's really how this group is right now. They're just finding little reasons, to motivate themselves for each and every round of these playoffs.
All right, Gary, I'm going to give you the final word. You said one of these things is going to be an upset. Which one's going to be the upset? Go ahead and go out on a big limb. Go out on a big limb.
That's going to be the Grimsley Lake Norman game.
That's not the big limb.
Huh?
I said that's not the big limb. I thought you were going to go out on a big limb.
What'd you want him to say? You wanted to say that Mount Tabor's going to beat North Mac? That's what you wanted him to say?
I don't want him to say anything. I want him just to say
he tried to set you up.
That's no, right. Not at all.
You got where I went to school.
Exactly.
I have not at all.
Gary, it's always your own people, man.
Yeah, heck of week games. All right, we got to do coach versus coach. So we got Gary and we got Randall, and I'll play the middle person. Let me get the music, and we'll let me find the music, and we'll do it. All right, let me get myself in the middle. Now who's going first? I don't want to be awkward. Like who's going first? So we don't.
Gary can go first.
Gary's going first. Okay, Gary, what is the biggest player team trend surprise for you in the 2023-24 season?
The biggest trend for me is that all the conferences, boys and girls, seem to be top heavy. Where you didn't have the loss of the middle class in high school basketball. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest trend. Initially it was girls, but by the end of the season, I think it was boys too. The loss of the middle class, where you had a big drop off. And when I say drop off, I'm talking about from second to third. There was a big drop off between second and third place teams. So I think we lost the middle class in boys and girls basketball this season.
Randall.
I think the biggest surprises for me were how good South Meck was on the boys' side and how well Myers Park's girls team has played. I think those are two big surprises that coming into the season I wouldn't have expected. I think both of those teams, South Meck boys, they overachieved, and Myers Park girls, they're playing with house money right now.
South Meck was 9-17, I think, last year, and 21-6 this year. Coach McDonald did a phenomenal job by Coach McDonald. For sure. Kind of we were talking the other day, who should be coach of the year? The person who wins the state championship that always gets it, wins the conference automatically always gets it, or somebody like that. So it's really cool. We'll have that argument on Friday when we go to Red Robin to pick these teams, or Thursday when we go to pick these teams. All right, Randall, are you bothered by the state having a state championship game on Friday at 1 p.m.?
No, I think that when you look at how the schedule is, they had to figure out ways to space everybody out and give enough people time to be celebrated and to win their championships and cut down the nets and all that good stuff. So it's not bothersome. Everybody, the big complaint is going to be whoever has to play at 1 p.m., they're going to be disgruntled. Like nobody, you can't make everybody happy. And whoever gets the 1 o'clock game, they're going to be disgruntled. Probably whoever gets the 3 o'clock game, they're not going to be much happier. But yeah, the 1 o'clock group is probably going to complain the most.
Well, I mean, I think to me, it's part of a compromise the state had to make. I mean, they could put one game in the annex and one game in the main gym, but if you go to the annex, well, you put us in the annex.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be worth it. You're not playing in front of the same crowd. But I'm sure that the kids that got to play at the 1 o'clock game, hope I get to leave school as soon as I get there. I'm sure they're not going to complain.
Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, speaking as an educator, I don't think the students have a problem with it. I don't think the teachers have a problem with it.
Yeah,
because they gonna leave, and it's an early start to the weekend for them. So I don't think they have a problem with it. I think the ones that may have the biggest problem with it are the parents who gonna have to take a day off.
Yeah.
To go to see their kids play, but hey, it's for many of them that's a once in a lifetime thing, and I think it's worth taking a day off for.
And I'm sure a lot of those parents got to take off for AAU games. I'm sure they're used to it by now.
Yeah, and a lot of states have a similar format to this. I mean, Q Tucker she looked at a lot of different models, and because it's new for North Carolina, I think there might be a little bit of an uproar about it. But I think over time, it'll just be state championship 1 o'clock. I mean, I actually like this format, so I'm curious to see how it goes.
And it depends on what schools are involved, because there's some school systems that start spring break on this week and some the following week. Everybody's not on the same calendar as far as when spring break is coming up.
Yeah. All right. Gary, with the NCAA, and this is right down your alley, would the playoff system be better if there was more human curation?
Yes, definitely. I think the computer should pick the 32 teams, and then I think you should have a selection committee that picks the matchups. You do not need to have teams from the same conference playing each other in the first round. That should be a no, and the only way that can be done is to either have a selection committee or go back to how they used to do it. I guess it was in the 90s almost, where teams were pre-seeded. You knew based on where you finished in your conference where you would play, and the only thing that had to really be determined is what 5 or 6 teams were going to get a wild card. Right. But everything else is predetermined. You knew before the season even started. If you finished first place, you're playing in this bracket. You finish in second place, you're playing in that bracket. Right. That's only 2 ways you can do it without a computer telling you got to play a team for the 4th time in the very first round.
Right. In some cases,
I think even the second round is a little bit ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I think playing the same team for the 4th time in the first round or second round, it should just never happen.
No, I think they've gotten really close with the computer system. I think, as Rick said, they seem to get a lot of the teams right, but just a little human curation could have avoided some of those matchups. And it also could have set up some of these games are going to have potentially humongous crowds on Friday, pushed it one step further where they could play in the larger arenas, which is what the state association was trying to do. Because the same problem they had last year in the regionals, they're going to have in the semifinals, not just in Charlotte, but in several places around the state. There's going to be humongous crowds trying to get in the small gyms. Rick, I give you the final word before we give Randall's final thoughts. What do you think about human curation, playoff pairings, all of it?
I think the RPI is good in the sense that it basically picks your top 4 teams based on strength of schedule. But I do agree. I think there's a human element that needs to be added to the equation where you don't have a team like Hopewell going up against Chambers, who just played each other the week before the conference tournament. That was their 4th time and 2nd time within, 7 days. I think, that could be added to the equation to make it really a lot smoother.
Yeah, well, I think they're getting close. I think they got a really close system. All right, Randall, final thoughts.
Basketball IQ is at an all-time low, and as a basketball community, we have to do a better job, not only just and with grassroots, but also with high school and even college. Our focus is totally off. I think we have too many kids that are worrying about Instagram reels and highlight tapes and not worrying about just playing the game of basketball. Um, these kids are playing way too many games and not being put in situations where they can work on the skills that they're developing and actually learning how to play the game of basketball. I think now we have kids are better players, but I don't think that they actually know how to play. And watching kids do 8 dribble combos, but not knowing how to jump off the proper foot to make a layup is beyond my belief. And I just think as a community that we have to do a better job, especially when I look at these mock drafts and I see a lot of these foreign players, this year in this class, projected to go earlier than a lot of American players.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. Rick just reminded me, I completely forgot. Probably the most important thing we were supposed to do this week.
Oh,
Mr. and Ms. Basketball. We got Ms. Basketball. Randall, your finalists: Zamariah, Sarah, Blanca. I'm
I
not
don't think
surprised.
anybody. I don't think anybody should be surprised by this list at all. Z, the North Carolina State commit, she's number 17 nationally. She's averaging 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and almost 5 steals per game.
Yeah.
And then we got Miss Sarah Strong at Grace Christian, the 5'2" basketball
Where's she
player,
going
number
to
one.
school, Randall? Where's she going?
She has not decided where she's going to school yet, and you are not going to get me to put my foot in my mouth.
She narrowed it down.
There's only one place she should go.
She's. I think she's down to her final 3 right now. I think that's where we're at.
Can you give us 3?
I believe just based on what I've seen and who's been at games, it's between UConn, South Carolina, and North Carolina. That's my belief. I haven't talked to her and her father in quite a long time, but I'm just based on who's been coming to games. It looks like that's where we're at. And last but not least, Blanca Thomas, the UNC commit. She's averaging 18, almost 12 rebounds and 3 blocks a game.
Third time for her being a finalist in Ms. Basketball. It's a pretty impressive career. Rick Boyside, you started out talking about these three. We're still talking about these 3.
Well, I think they're the 3 of the top players in the state of North Carolina. You look at their national rankings, and it dovetails with what we've been saying all along. You have Isaiah Evans, 6'7", Duke commit, averaging 27.1 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2.4 steals. And if you look at North Meck, they're averaging over 90 plus points a game, and they've been beating a lot of teams by healthy margins. And the thing about it is Isaiah probably could be averaging more points than what's listed here. Basically, if they had a few more competitive games throughout the course of the season. But the thing about Isaiah that I like about him is he's one of the most passionate, flamboyant, entertaining players that's come through the Charlotte area in quite some time. I've never seen a guy that's so involved in the game, and he's just an emotional kid. It's fun to watch. Paul McNeil, the NC State commit, he's a top 75 recruit, having a banner year. If you look at his stats, he probably has the best stat line of the 3. Almost 32 points a game, almost 10 rebounds, almost 5 assists, and almost 3 steals per game. I don't think that Richmond County probably has the strength of schedule that maybe North Meck or, that Isaiah Evans has, but they do have a very good schedule. But you're looking at Paul McNeil, who has a great stat line across the board. And, next up is Drake Powell, the 6'6", UNC commit. He's a type of player. He's sort of the opposite of Isaiah. He's all business on the court. He's sort of like a cool, calm, and collect type of player. A very mature approach to the game. He's the number 9 recruit nationally. He's averaging almost 18 points a game, 8 rebounds, almost 5 assists, and 2 steals. Again, if you look at his stats, and I look at basically Northwood has won a lot of games by 40 and 50 points. So again, Drake Powell and Isaiah Evans could probably be averaging more points if they had a more competitive schedule during the course of the season as far as closeness of games. The thing about Drake Powell that I like, I think him and Sir Muhammad are 2 of the best defenders in the state and also in the country.
That's pretty impressive. Well, next week we'll be giving out the winners of Mr. and Ms. Basketball. We've done the Charlotte Observer's giving those awards out since 1984, and we're proud to do it. And we'll be back next week. And also next week we'll be talking about regional games. Basketball playoffs go fast, so we talk about regional games. That's Randall, the best trainer I know. That's Rick Lewis, the #1 voice of high school basketball. That's Gary, the retired CMS coach. The contrarian Alex Bass, who's looking awful sharp today. I'm Langston, and we're Talking Preps.